messages for your awakening and ascension journey support. So today I'm just going to talk about some interesting things that I thought about with respect to my own journey and what some of the most difficult things have been. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think it's important that we understand that we mostly all go through some of the same things. I mean, they may differ a little bit, but there's common themes and common threads within the phases of the awakening journey. So I got thinking about this the other day when I realized I was still kind of going through a part that I thought I was done with. And we'll explore that here in one of the pieces that I offer you today. And all of a sudden I started kind of doing this thing of, gosh, this journey can be difficult. Well, now I know that's not lost upon most of you, but I thought I would share some of the most difficult things that I've dealt with. Now, ultimately, they're all for good. They're all for purpose. And they're, if you can really get outside of yourself, you can see it as a beautiful part of the process. However, we're still human, and I just want to offer to you today some understanding of the things I went through. Probably not some of the common things that you might think of. There are a lot of others, right, that I could talk about. But a couple of these are a little bit, I guess I will just say, I don't know if it's deeper, but, okay, they just said to me more reflective. And kind of holistic. So I'm going to share, I don't know, I think it's 6 or 7. I'll figure it out and I'll put it in the title. But anyway, and you never know, I might add another one. But so I thought this might help you in kind of reflecting back on your part of the journey, because remember, as a human, we can sit here and go, oh, the awakening is so beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. And ultimately, yes, it is. But as a human, we're still human. We deal with all the trials and tribulations of this process because we've never understood this and we don't even know what to expect. So if nothing else, this also may help you, particularly if you're new to the journey, kind of help you understand some of the things that you may end up experiencing and then have more of a frame of reference or context for them when they do. And for those of you going through the process, well, it'll probably validate some things for you or open you up to maybe some new understandings. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channels for your awakening and ascension journey support. So what I'm doing today is offering you, from my perspective, some of this information that will assist you. I'm sure some channeling will come through. There's not a Light Keepers channel today. As you know, I've kind of expanded beyond that. I'm not saying that that wasn't enough, but expanded beyond kind of what I want to share with you on a regular basis. If it's just from the human perspective, I'm going to share it with you because obviously we're in this journey as a human. And going through it and really trying to understand why the things are happening to us that are happening to us. All for our greater good, of course. So for those of you who are new, thank you so much for joining me. And what you'll find below in the description box is an opportunity to get more channel messages from me on a weekly basis. It's through my email list. So what you're going to see first is actually a video I created that is on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness. So check that out. You'll get that video, a couple other videos, and then you'll go right into the weekly email where you get a channeled message. So they're pretty cool, and it's a good way to kind of get more information if you'd like that from the Light Keepers. Again, I'm going to also mention, which I never mention, is my Facebook page. It's full of tons of channels and poems from the Light Keepers. It's Purple Rain Healing. If you're on Facebook, come join me. All right, so I'm going to get going on the first one. Okay, so what I have realized from my early journey as one of the difficulties, now this was before I was consciously awake. So remember, those of you who have watched my videos, the vast majority of us, and I think all of us, honestly, okay, they just said, yes, you all do. Oh, but unaware to you. Oh, unless you reflect back. Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know that I was unconsciously conscious for a number of years since 2001 until my dark night of the soul, my consciousness woke up in 2016, right? So that's a huge span of time. So what happened in between? As I talked to you about, there are the phases of awakening, right? However, within that, what I realize as I've reflected on my journey is there is what I'll just call an unhappy period. Okay, and they just said to me between the old world and the new world. Oh, they just said crossing the chasm. Okay, of understanding, they just said. I think they're going to channel a lot today. Now, the minute I say that, they won't, right? Crossing the chasm from the old understanding to the new understanding. Very often, this is done without any understanding we're going through the awakening process. It's like kind of prep time for the real awakening, all right? Particularly those of us who go through a dark night of the soul that cracks us wide open, okay? Because as I've mentioned before, remember, this is a series of, hey, we're going to wake you up. Hey, are you awake? Hey, you're not awake. Bam. And I had to take the bam with the dark night of the soul. So anyway, point is in the early journey, in the unconscious consciousness phase, what I realize now with myself then is I started learning about things that, I kind of had lived in a cocoon a lot of my life, thinking and understanding and believing that all of my thoughts and beliefs and the things I'd grown up with were real and true. That what I saw on TV, and I'm kind of exaggerating, but not really, was kind of real and true. I mean, we do that. We don't, we go through our life, we don't think about it too much. We're just like, okay, that is what it is, right? That is what it is. And then that creates our belief system. Well, what happens in the awakening journey, and what clearly happened in mine, is what I call an unhappy period, where you start realizing, wait a minute, it's as you start investigating, start learning about things. Oh, wait, that's not what I thought it was. Probably a really good example is some of the big constructs in our lives, like religion, religious beliefs. We may start questioning those. We may start delving into other faiths, other ways of belief, more esoteric thought processes. We may start looking at our world system. We may start looking more in a global manner versus very myopically. Before we started to go through the initial stages of the awakening process. And when we start doing that, we start seeing, oh, wow, this is very different than I thought, or that I had understood in my more myopic view of things. Before I started going into my kind of unconscious, conscious awareness phase. But what starts to happen as you start having these new understandings and your belief systems kind of get chipped away at, be aware that you may start feeling almost kind of a little bit of a depression, a little sadness, an unhappy period of like, oh my gosh, what I thought was isn't, or no longer is, or I don't know what is. And so you're in that chasm between kind of confused and unconfused, unhappy and happy, moving toward that more holistic approach to understanding. And you do that through awakening, right? But what we have to do first is we have to look at what we have constructed ourselves out of, what our belief system is, and we do that very naturally. And I will say a lot of this is during a time when you're not aware that you're awakening. Now, some people may be aware. I wasn't at all. But you'll very likely go through, and it could last a while, depending on how long you're in this phase, this kind of unhappy period of like, oh my gosh, I don't understand. Why am I depressed? Why am I miserable? Why am I feeling ungrounded in the life that I thought I had? Because I have to tell you, I've mentioned this before, what I would consider to be, from day one when I was born, a pretty traditional upbringing. Now, we're pretty progressive in the sense of getting 2 girls involved in major sports and, the progressive things that were happening back in those days. And yet at the same time, very traditional belief systems, I would say. Okay, well, I guess we could argue that. But the point is that's kind of how I feel when I look at the era I grew up in and how I was brought up. But I was so fortunate. I've had a beautiful life, not without its struggles, but my growing up time was, pretty incredible. But what it did was it also kind of kept me from expanding beyond my understanding of what I already knew. So when I did go through this process, I wasn't really prepped for it, I guess I would say. And so I felt, and it's going to all depend on kind of how you've come up to that present moment when you start going through your unconscious conscious phase and you're starting to see things differently, how much it will affect you. So what I would say to you is if you feel like you're going through this now or you get to this phase, just remember this is normal, okay? Take a deep breath, get your grounding, take care of yourself, all the self-care stuff. But anyway, it kind of rattles your world and makes you feel ungrounded, but know that you're on to something else, okay? You're getting the first pieces of what will now become your new understanding. And like I said, a more holistic approach to the entirety of the world community and honestly, outside the world community. Okay, so that was the first thing for me that I decided to list and share with you. An unhappy period. All right, the next one is, this one drives me nuts. As humans, we always think, oh, there's an end goal and I'll be done. When am I going to be done with the awakening? I mean, that may seem like a really simplistic approach, but we kind of do that to one degree or another. When am I done? When am I done? No, you're not done. You're never done. We go through phases. We've talked about that. You're continuing learning and growing. And the part that really has been difficult for me is this roller coaster. Like literally day to day. Today, I am on fire. I'm happy. I feel whole in myself. I feel like I could do anything today. Anything. Yesterday, oh my gosh, I was the complete opposite. Doubting, questioning, wondering, looking externally for not just, well, yeah, validation, not centered in myself. Today, no, I'm not. I'm like, oh my gosh, who was that yesterday? But what is that, right? I mean, that is so hard on us because we don't know what to expect from day to day. At the foundation of this is the fact that we can do some things to help ourselves. So much of this has to do with self-care. So much of it, and I've talked about this before, that self-care is the foundation of all this. That doesn't mean you're not going to have the roller coaster. It may mean your emotional part of that is less, but we're going to talk about something else here that actually contributes to this roller coaster here in a minute. So part of this journey has to do, and I guess I'll just cover this now as a part of the roller coaster in this process, are the energetic events that we go through. We have so much that is shifting and changing within us. One of which contributes to the roller coaster are the energetic events that just happen, okay? Upgrades, downloads, galactic events, or I guess I should say interplanetary events, all the energies coming in that just happen to us, okay? That's just one thing that can cause the roller coaster. How we treat ourselves causes a roller coaster. The things that come up for clearing assists in how we experience the roller coaster. The point is, it can really rattle you, all right? But it's part of this process to where, okay, now that's so interesting. They just said it eventually evens out. And we're talking the individual roller coaster, not the roller coaster I've been using as the metaphor for the collective events, okay? Not that. We're talking our individual roller coaster in the awakening journey. And so what they're saying, it eventually evens out to a smoother run. Okay, well that makes sense because we start, and here's what happened with me. I didn't understand why I would feel so out of my element. I've always been pretty stable in my emotions and my feelings and how I express myself. I've just always felt pretty stable. Not in the awakening. I haven't, not at all. Because of course we become more sensitive to energies. That's the whole other conversation, is how we become so sensitive. But the roller coaster is really all-encompassing with a lot of different events contributing to how we experience the roller coaster of emotions and of sensitivity and of feeling. It is natural, okay? It is natural. What we've really got to do is be able to lean into it and just know that from one day to the next, there are many things impacting and affecting us that may cause us to feel one way or the other. Probably one of the most important things to do, though, is to be connected into yourself to recognize it's happening rather than letting yourself roll out of control. Recognize it's happening and be able to say, okay, I feel this morning. The minute I put my foot on the floor, something's different, something shifted, changed. I need to be aware of that. What am I going to do based on the feeling I have to assist myself? Now, two things here. For example, in my two examples I just gave of yesterday and today, I'm kind of like, I'm not very grounded. I have a ton of energy. I want to go change the world. want to shout from the mountaintops. I have no idea why, right? Well, I need to contain myself. Like, there's too much going on with me right now, which is obviously a great time to do a video. But it also can make me crash and burn later. It also can make me then come out of this kind of high and honestly go into a little bit of being bummed out, right? Like, I mean, that can happen when you do the high-low thing, and mine aren't extreme, but I mean, I very much have a lot of energy today. Whereas yesterday, I was kind of bemoaning a lot of things that nothing had changed from yesterday to today. My circumstances are the same. So what was I bemoaning? So my point in this is as you feel these things, visit them and say, all right, what do I do when I feel like I do today, as an example? So much energy, I don't know what to do. I want to change the world. I want to shout from the mountaintops. I want to call up people and change their lives for them. I need to go exercise, okay? That's one way for me. I need to go just get it out. I need to put my energy into creative pursuits, which I'm doing right now with a video, right? I was like, oh, this is a good time, right? So needless to say, what we have to do is first ground ourselves and say, whoa, connect in. What's going on? What's going on? How do I feel? And then deal with it from there. And be gentle on yourself, because this roller coaster is real and it comes and goes. And I don't care how far along you are in the journey. We continue to rise in vibration, and with that comes shifts and changes in energies. And you're going to feel them. Okay? So again, self-care, taking care of yourself, identifying what you're feeling, and then saying, okay, now what do I do? All right, so that's the roller coaster. This was a new learning, and I will say it was a difficult learning only in the sense of trying to figure out, how do I work as one with myself? And what I mean by this difficult one is all three are one: mind, body, soul. Now that might seem obvious when you say mind, body, soul, we're all one. But have you ever really thought about that, what it means day to day as you're going through your day? Your body. How do you treat your body? Like a whipped horse? I did for the longest time. It's like, oh, let's just keep working out. Let's run 5Ks. Let's see how far we can run each day. Not 3 miles every day. Let's go 5. Or let's play, this was the obsessive part, let's play 6 days of tennis for 2 hours apiece in 100-degree weather. Seriously. Okay, so the point in that is how are you treating your body? All right? Are you really looking at that? We can intellectually know we are mind, body, and soul. But then what does that mean day to day? Are you connecting in with your body? Are you understanding it? It is speaking to you, but are you listening? What's it telling you? Your soul self. Are you working from your heart center space? Do you feel what your soul self tells you? Do you know what your gut knowings are? Are you allowing your intuition to guide you? Okay, so a lot of that soul self we have to consider as well. But have we really done that? No, we again say, well, we're mind, body, and soul. No. What does it mean day to day? What does it look like? How do you really integrate? And how do you know you're working from that space? Mind. Oh my gosh. Our mind. Well, connecting that in to body and soul, how do you do that? How do you do that? Well, I've started to really think about the fact that I'm in my head a lot. I mean, as much as I meditate and I do the things that I teach all of you, right? And I'm still inconsistent at times, but I know it's the right thing to do, but I'm still in my head a lot. I overthink, I do all those things. But again, it's about what's that headspace doing to you? What is that overthinking? How do you use your mind, and you can argue the ego side of things, day to day, integrating in with your body and your soul? That's deep thinking. It's not just that peripheral kind of, okay, we're mind, body, and soul, we're all one, and then move on in your day. It's about understanding how that is reflected in your day-to-day and how you can become even more of the one as you go through the journey. And that's a whole video on itself, but my point in this is that's been very difficult for me to grasp that idea of we are part of a three, mind, body, soul, integrating into the one. How do they all three work together? And we all find our ways on this. And again, like I said, I'm not going to go into a lot of, here's what you can do in this video. I'm going to give you some things, but I think it's more the understanding of what does that mean, and not just cursorily going over it and saying, mind, body, and soul. So what does that look like for you, and what kind of deep sense do you have of what that means? And as you integrate the mind, body, and soul, you're really coming from the inside of yourself, integrated into that oneness, and how you then react and behave in the outer world, but it's coming from the inner of having integrated the three, if that makes sense. So keep in mind, a difficult part of this can be trying to understand how the three of us work together to travel through this journey and then become more holistic in our approach to everything and be able to see from the wholeness of who we are. All right, so here's another one, and this is pretty broad: the shadows. All the shadow stuff that we bring into our incarnation. And I remember when somebody first said, well, do shadow work. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. What is a shadow? What are you talking about? And I've still always kind of struggled with this one. But we have a tendency to think that we just move through our day, most of us, right? And we just do our thing. We deal with what we deal with. And then when we're done with a thing, like an emotion or a event that's caused some kind of whatever, acting out, emotion, whatever, feeling, which most things do, right? Or a big event with someone that caused us consternation or whatever it is in our journey, we just blow by, think we've dealt with it, and on we go. Most of us stuff our stuff down, all right? Whether it be, we're consciously doing that because we don't want to deal with it. We just keep adding to our baggage. Whether we've had childhood stuff happen to us that we have suppressed. And then let's just get real. Past lives are a real thing. Most of what we're dealing with in this incarnation has to do with karmic stuff, past life stuff that we're here to do over again, do differently, have different players come in and work the thing with us or us with them. It is such a complex journey that, I really think if we saw every aspect of what we go through each day as part of this journey, it would just be overwhelming. So it's kind of good in some ways to be a little unconscious about some of that. But when you start really realizing there are all these shadows, oh my gosh, it can just get exhausting and overwhelming. And guess what? They naturally show up as you go through the awakening. All right. Now you can argue maybe you don't even have to go through the awakening and all this stuff is happening to everybody else. But we're talking about the awakening journey because this is when you become really consciously aware that these things are happening. And then you start feeling them and you start emoting out and your emotions open up and you're dealing with all the stuff that happened in this incarnation in the past that you've stuffed away, you haven't dealt with, whether it be relationships you haven't dealt with, you haven't closed out. Closing out's a big deal. You may think you have. I'm going to tell you right now, for me, I had so many people come back into my journey, particularly in the last, I will say 2 years, and some real significant ones last year, where I thought I was done. Oh no, I had to learn certain understandings. One, which is, and I'll just share this with you, one, which is, I was involved with a major narcissist. I didn't know that. I knew something was off and that I hadn't really understood, but I was like, I'm done with that. Oh no, I needed to understand it because I won't repeat it again if I understand what's going on and what triggered me and all of that. So the point in this is this will come up for you naturally. You are going to be confronted with the kinds of things that we have stuffed down, whether it be past lives, whether it be this current incarnation. And then you can argue, well, how do I even know it's happening? How do I identify that it's with a past life? Well, here's the thing. I would argue that understanding the past lives that you have that are impacting your current incarnation, and again, there are probably a multitude of them, but some of the key ones with kind of the stuff you're going through now, whether it's physical, emotional, whatever it is in your journey right now, it's real important to know. But we're not taught that, right? So it just happens to us, and we end up with an illness, or we end up with some kind of thing that emotion that we feel and we don't understand, or we get into some kind of relationship that feels off or that doesn't feel connected to who we really are, but we're going through this because of past lives. So past lives are brought forward to us in the awakening journey because we have actually brought forth certain lives to clear now. Our body may be reflecting it now. So many people with their physical illnesses and the emotional situations they have going on are very often caused by past lives or something in this incarnation as well. But delving into that, digging into that, just knowing this is going to happen to you, that you're going to bring up all the shadows, whether it be from the past life or this current incarnation to deal with, will be helpful to you. Forget whether you know the past life. Now remember, I do that work. So if you ever want to work with me to understand your past lives, you can visit my website, as I always mention at the end, purplerainhealing.com. But it's one of my specialties. And what will happen is, what we do is, even though we don't understand our past lives, we're going to start feeling stuff in the awakening journey that can be real difficult, or we may process them through dreams. It will be eye-opening. It's all for our greater good. We're clearing this out of our cellular memory. But I'm going to tell you right now, for me, one of the most difficult things has been the shadows. The stuff I thought, because I'm pretty good at recognizing my own stuff, I don't hide emotions, I feel the feeling, I express myself, I use my voice. Oh no, I've had tons of this, and a lot from past lives, a ton of past lives that have actually impacted me now, today, in this current journey, and I'm doing it over, in one example, with a person I've been with for many, many lives, clearing out a lot of this stuff, learning how to trust, learning to understand that how I behaved in those past lives, learning how that individual behaved. So again, this is because I know my past lives, but the point is I want you to be aware you're going to feel things you're not going to be able to connect to or understand most fully, and yet it is totally natural. And that kind of adds to that roller coaster, right? So, like this. Okay, this is what's this attached to? Why am I feeling this today? Why am I feeling incredibly emotional about, I don't know, let's just say, this is such a basic example, but why do I feel incredibly emotional and a little bit fearful and scared when I'm by a body of water? And I'm starting to realize now more than ever, I've always been scared of water. Why am I scared of water? What is going on there? How do, realizing that, and it may very much come up even more in the awakening journey to clear out, because basically a past life will be associated with that, all right? Or some kind of understanding that you may receive. You may not receive that, but what you want to know is a lot of the fears that we have, a lot of the strong emotions, the anger, the sadness, the fear, all of that can very much be tied to things that happen in our past journeys, in our past lives, all right, and also suppressed in this life. So that's part of the difficulty that I have felt. It continues throughout the awakening journey. But just remember, there are all these wonderful moments in between, right? And these are wonderful moments too. It's just how you deal with them, right? That's why I'm sharing this today. How do you deal with the difficult stuff that shows up? Because it's about awareness. It's not about, again, turning a blind eye to everything that's showing up, or then you're just going to dig yourself a bigger hole. But, we have very much been taught to just keep moving through and be strong and tough and, move on and on. Well, now, fortunately, more and more people are talking about these things and, feeling our feelings and really coming from the heart of us. That allows us really as a society, as societies, to be able to see things differently and not just charge forward and stuff everything away and then have it all explode during our awakening journey. We're all going to feel this from one degree to another. And what can often happen is the shadows, all that stuff we've stuffed down, guess what? It can create a separate persona. It can create a persona that we actually live from. So that we actually identify with. And we don't want that. So that's really about breaking that down. That whole shadow self will create a separate persona from which you then are living from, possibly from one degree to another. So keep that in mind. Okay, so the fifth one is unconditional love. Now you may say, well, what's difficult about that? What's difficult for me about that is we talk about it a lot, right? And we expect to feel it, and that's the kind of end goal, or there's a goal in all of this, to always feel unconditional love. Well, I'm here to tell you that we're human. We need to be forgiving of ourselves, not shame ourselves into not being able to feel unconditional love every single day. Because here's what we're doing. We're learning how to look at people as the soul that they are, that beautiful soul that they are, but with the exterior of a human, and all their actions and emotions and words and all of that, and still be able to go, I still love you, in our heart space. That is so hard when we look and see how people react and behave all day long. But deep inside, there's this beautiful soul self. And I will say, I have had and you're probably going to go, what? But I've had one significant moment of like massive heart expansion, unconditional love for everything, everywhere in the world. And it was like everything became one wholeness. I wasn't looking at people individually. I was just, my heart burst open in a moment, and honestly, it lasted about a moment, where I just felt unconditional love. And I was just blubbering. I think I was by myself. I don't even remember, but it was so beautiful. And then as quick as it was there, it was gone. All right. Because here's the thing. We are still working in a human space. All right. Transcending that to constantly every single day, every moment, feel unconditional love is, okay, they just said next to impossible as a human. But that's the beauty of it, because it's a study also. It's also a growing understanding of, why do you feel, not just passing it by, why do you feel that way about so-and-so, or those kinds of behaviors, or how can you see somebody deeper? It's really kind of a study of kind of that non-judgment versus judgment, and then being able to separate out the human behavior from the soul that is inside, waiting to be able to be the one that speaks in that person. And so if we can kind of look at it like that, that's helped me immensely. Now, that doesn't mean I feel the unconditional love, like that heart space opening again. I hope I do sometime. And yet I do feel that that's how I come from in my actions and my behavior to people. I truly feel that. But it's the physical feeling of that heart space opening up into unconditional love, where you are just feel like you've just, drawn yourself into a big heart, right? So it doesn't mean you're not acting that way every single day as best you can, because that's just who you are. Like I feel I do, treating everybody with dignity, respect, fairness, all that. And honestly, love for my neighbor. But at the same time, the physical feeling of that, of unconditional love, may not be there. So the best way I have found to really get a sense of unconditional love and feel unconditional love is to do an action. Do something out of not expecting any kind of return at all, and do something nice for somebody. A stranger in particular, for some reason that even feels better. Just doing something nice, even a smile. The more of these things we do, the more we have the opportunity to show unconditional love, and also have the opportunity to feel it. Because you're going to feel that when you do that action, you're going to feel that beauty of that heart space of, looking at another in a way that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, if you wouldn't have taken that action and just breezed right by them. So that's what I have found is really helpful. But that's a tough one. That's really the path to oneness, in the sense of how we will eventually see each other day to day. But, remember where we are in our journey. We have a ways to go as a collective. So that's unconditional love, one that I have found to be almost, I guess I'd just say sometimes where I think, oh, am I just not progressing fast enough? And then I just shame myself, right? No, not doing that anymore. Not doing that anymore. We talked about past lives clearing. That was kind of combined with another one. That was one on my list. Okay. Other difficulty, which I don't think is lost upon any of you, are energetic events. We talked a little bit about that too. These energetic events can be extremely difficult, and they're just there. We have the moon, the sun, the new moon, the full moon. We have the solstice, we have equinox, we have solar flares, whatever else is showing up too, right? I mean, that's just, we have upgrades. We get our individual upgrades, and we get, downloads are a little different, but upgrades, we cellularly are getting adjusted. So we feel different all the time. Again, that's part of the roller coaster. That is part of the roller coaster. So the difficulty in energetic events is, we're all energy, and we're moving to a higher vibration, a higher frequency. As this energy comes in and we shift and change our timelines individually and collectively, collectively and then individually we change within that, we're going to feel different. And we have to adjust and adapt to that. So our bodies are really going through a lot of shift and change, as well as our mind. So again, I go back to energetic events. One of the most important things I have found for myself, I've talked a lot about self-care. What are you doing to help yourself along? Boy, when you feel those energetic events are here, have a plan. Have a plan. Oh, when I feel this, I do these things that work. And you may have to experiment, right? Like my go-to is clearing of energy, meditation. Well, this all depends on what's going on, right? I also use CBD. I am a huge proponent of CBD. But again, it's got to be right for you. Because I'll start getting, when the energetic events start really showing up, I get anxiety. Never used to be an anxious person. But I'll get a little uptick and it sticks with me all day long. CBD helps me. So, what exercise? Self-care. What do I eat? What am I eating? Did I have a glass of wine? That doesn't help me at all in energetic events. And so I'm just not doing a lot of that anymore. And I think I've talked about that previously. But so what do you do to support yourself with self-care so that you can handle these energetic events in a way that may not be as difficult for you? But I have found them to be a struggle in the sense of, okay, wait a minute, I have to find my recipe. So a lot of what I've talked about today here is what do you create out of this that you've learned from studying this on how you react to actually help yourself forward through this in a more, I guess I would say, maybe constructive way, but a more, in a way where you're really a participant. It's not just what's done to you. It's, okay, what am I going to do? What do I bring to the party to be able to help me during this phase that I'm in or this thing that's happening to me today? Because honestly, I feel like it is every single day. We go through something. So being able to help yourself is super important. The other difficult thing I have found, and this is the last one, and this feels to me, and I don't want to say more advanced, but I don't have another word for this, more like down the line as you go through the awakening journey, starting to be able to be the observer of what is happening in your life and around you, rather than I will say, being fully involved and lost in the emotion of the acting role, if that makes sense. Because think about it as being in theater. Okay, we're in a big theater, we're doing a play, this is our life. Who's the observer? Well, it's the audience, right? So as an audience member in watching theater, you really do fall into the play and the actors. And that's the beauty of being able to, like watch theater or watch a movie. You really can take in what they're experiencing. However, you do it from an observer's perspective, right? You don't get into the role, because the role actually is the one that has all the emotion attached to it and you see it played out, right? The actor is actually doing that. That's how you want to eventually become, is be able to be the observer, be the audience member in your own acting role, if that makes any sense at all, right? So what we're doing in that case is we're in a situation that, let's just say it's emotionally charged. Oh, let's just pick a holiday event with family that can be emotionally charged, or there's lots of opinions going on, right? Can you go to that event and sit there and just breathe and then watch it play out? And don't jump in like you usually do and drown yourself in emotion and opinion and, all those words and whatever it is that you do, right? Being able to step back and just breathe and let everybody have their own way and watch those dynamics change when you don't jump in, right? So it's so interesting to be the observer. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's super hard. It's even harder the closer you are to people. So I would say, again, all of what I've talked about today really talks about being involved in your own life, in your journey, and how you are coming across to others, how you behave, how you react, how you treat yourself, all of this. So again, this is really a learned process, and you kind of have to plan for it. Like, great example, I'm going to a very small, because of the virus, family wedding this weekend. And we are tiny. We're a tiny, tiny family. We have, I think it's like 6 people, 7. Literally, there's no extended family. And they're going to be there. And we're going to have a great time. I know this. However, our energies are going to come in together initially and collide like they usually do. You know how that works. It's like when those energies come together, all of a sudden it's like, and you might do that initial thing before you get used to each other's energies again. Be the observer. Just remember, be the observer. Try to say to yourself, I have this event coming up. Here's how I normally react. I don't like that. I'm not going to do that. What are my triggers? And then be able to go in with a plan. So again, this is work we do on ourselves. This is all self-growth. So these difficult things that I've been through, I'm not by any stretch past any of them, but I fully recognize them. And I have practices for each of them that help me through this when these happen. It makes it so much easier. It doesn't mean these are going to end anytime soon. It doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect anytime soon. It means that I'm going to have a smoother journey. So I hope today this has helped you really identify a few things in yourself that you may see as having been difficult. Look at yourself and see how you've dealt with them, or as you're coming into them, being able to find new ways and methods of dealing with times that may really test you in this journey. So there are many more of these, but I thought I would just touch on a few today, and I hope I have helped you today, taking at least one thing away for your own ascension and awakening journey. And I'll leave you with purplerainhealing.com. Check out all my services because I do a lot of channeling for you and I help you through your awakening and ascension journey with all of my services. And don't forget, Celeste and I, we do a full-on soul journey, 50 minutes of channeled recording for you where we bring you into some of your first incarnations. We talk about your past lives, some of your important past lives for you to know about now. And then we bring you into present day and we answer some of your questions. It's fascinating. 50 minutes of channeled information just designed for you that you'll be offered through Celeste and me. So we look forward to working with you, and I look forward to working with you as well. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.